Hey guys, this is Dr. Hub. Today we look at the demographic process and also the cycles. So the stages of demographic cycle components, it includes firstly there is stage 1. Stage 1 means it is high stationary. So before we start in further, we'll just look at a rough representation of the graph. So this is how it is. We look at the death rate. So first is stage 1, it is plateau, and then it slows down in stage 2, and then entering stage 3 it becomes a plateau. So now looking at the stage, this was death rate, now birth rate. Birth rate it becomes a plateau, this happens plateau till the stage 2, and in the stage 3 it declines, and even in stage 4 it declines, and then it lowers till the stage 5. Now looking at the total population, it remains stagnant in the stage 1, and it slowly increases and forms a curved plateau. This is beyond in the stage 4 and 5. So this is just a rough idea we need to have before proceeding further. So now in case of stage 1, in stage 1 it is nothing but the high stationary. It is high stationary. So there is a high birth rate and the high death rate. There is a high birth rate as well as the high death rate, and this renders the population stationary. So because of the high birth rate and death rate, the population is stationary. Next is the narrow demographic gap. Next is the narrow demographic gap. Then comes the stage 2. Stage 2 means it is early expanding. It is early expanding. This is stage 2. So here the death rates it declines and the birth rate remains unchanged. So the death rate it declines, it reduces, and the birth rate it is unchanged. So the birth rate is unchanged. The demographic gap it starts increasing and becomes maximum. The demographic gap it starts increasing, so the gap is widening and it becomes maximum here. Then we move on to stage 3. In stage 3 it is known as the late expanding. So the death rate here it declines. The death rate we see declines further, and the birth rate falls, and the birth rate it also falls. So the demographic gap it starts declining. Demographic gap it starts declining. Now we look at the stage 4. The stage 4 is nothing but the low stationary. So low stationary it includes there is a low birth rate and low death rate. So it renders the population stationary. So the population here it becomes stationary. There is a narrow demographic gap. There is a narrow demographic gap. Then we move on to lastly the stage 5. See here in case of stage 5 it will decline. The population it becomes to decline as the birth rate is lower than the death rate. So the population it will decline. And why is it declining? Because the birth rate if you see it is lower than that of the death rate. Birth rate is lower than that of the death rate. So it declines, and the demographic gap that's DG it becomes negative. Now let's just recap what we did here. So this is how the graph looks. This is in case of the death rate. This is in terms of the birth rate, and this is the total population. Let's break it This is stage 1. This will be stage 2. This is stage 3, stage 4, and so on.